Good morning, my name is Prichard. I am the lead for the Optimised Retrofit Programme Training and Skills Group in Wales and also work one day a week at MPTC Group of Colleges looking at green and sustainable agendas. So I'm very pleased to be speaking at the ECA Roadshow today. We are looking at the perception from Wales, where Wales is in terms of net zero and some of the initiatives we're bringing forward. There is a strong commitment from Welsh Government in terms of net zero and the approaches they need to take. The problem is in Wales is it is a little bit unjoined up at the moment, and some of the work that Andrew's been doing from ECA and others in trying to pulling together a strategic group looking at these issues has really helped Welsh Government shape a net zero action plan, which can be seen on the website currently. This highlights a lot of the work that has been done and, more importantly, the work ECA and members need to do to meet the expectations of 2030 and beyond. This is about the total commitment from everybody. Nobody is an expert in this and nobody has all the right answers. It is about working collectively and communicating effectively in terms of initiatives and in terms of who can do what they need to do in terms of developing that strategy. So a little bit about my own role. I mentioned I chair the Optimised Retrofit Programme. That was a Welsh Government initiative which looked at training and skills for 2 periods in terms of working with the RSLs, the Registered Social Landlords, in terms of net zero approaches. We are fortunate to pull together a number of the specialist federations, including ECA, to look at the initiatives that were happening in the UK, but more importantly, looking at the devolved skills agenda within Wales. Through that, we developed, as I said earlier on, the net zero plan, which now has moved into the next phase, where ECA and others will lead action groups on that in terms of where it fits. I also chair in Wales the Wales Sustainability Supply Chain School. That looks at the important markets of the SMEs and the very micro SMEs who will be the marketplace, especially in the ECA membership, to drive this forward. It won't be the tier 1 contractors we know. They will play a role, but a lot is needed by the specialist supply chain further down the railroad in terms of moving that forward. And the supply chain is looking at sustainability and looking at the wider parts of net zero. Because net zero itself, there's a lot of confusion in terms of what that means. What is net zero? What is retrofit? I look at sustainability skills, and that's the way Welsh Government approached it in terms of looking at the wider context. And this is where traditional sectors more than likely don't play the role they used to. I was fortunate that I was CITB Welsh Director for 17 years, so know very much about the construction footprint and the levy and scope angles. But in terms of retrofit and green skills, this is the specialist sector taking control of the core sector. And if you look at the wider parts we need to look at in the industry, the terms digital, robotics, manufacturing, agriculture even, all those come into a net zero agenda, smart home technology. And the beauty of this is the skills programs aren't really there yet. They're being developed. And the key, I think, from this conference and from the conference across the UK that ECA are going to run the road shows, it'll be important that we get the feedback to ensure the skills that are going to be developed are what is needed within the community of UK and Wales, meeting the devolved angles of Scotland and England in terms of where those skills remits fit. In terms of other parts, I actually sit on a group called Zero, which is quite an interesting group. As far as I'm concerned, the key job is working with the NPTC Group of Colleges. They are the biggest college network in Wales, and fortunate to have a CEO who's passionate about the built environment and sustainability. There's 2 things happening with the college. One, and ECA have been invited to be involved. In September, we are setting up a low carbon forum, which will bring together all the specialist federations and other interested bodies to look at a strategy, not just for the college, but to support Welsh Government in terms of the way they move forward. That group will be quite fundamental, because as I said before, nobody has all the answers at the moment. It's how we pull that together and how we collate that in a meaningful form. So the invite will be there for ECA as a group, but that opens up to employers as well, because the employer voice in this will be just as important as to where we are moving forward in. The other thing the college is looking at is obviously looking at different courses in terms of what works, what doesn't work. And we are fortunate in Wales, we have the personal learning accounts. which electrical contractors have linked into, and we have actually used those as 2 or 3 day courses to look at where there's a feasibility and appetite to deliver those courses more mainstream. And more importantly, shaping the apprenticeships and degree apprenticeships and other apprenticeships that may come forward more wholly. And it is as well within the review that's happened with Qualifications Wales in terms of the qualifications going forward. They're looking at people learning 2 skills. Now, wouldn't it be good that the electrical engineering works with the complementary renewable skills in terms of solar panels, in terms of smart homes, as 2 qualifications at level 3? And that's the sort of thing we are trying to drive forward. So there's opportunities, and there's a number of groups. And what I'm really getting at here is quite a big infrastructure of different things that ECA and members can get involved with. In terms of Welsh apprenticeships, excuse me, I'm going to cough. The Welsh apprenticeships, as you will know, is a little bit different from England and Scotland. We have a devolved skills policy, which fits in with where Welsh governments see their priorities. Now, Welsh government have invested heavily in Future Generations. Future Generations Wales is a unique worldwide organisation looking at the aspirations of young people in terms of decarbonisation. And we are trying to link the apprenticeships and skills to the Future Generations Act. And the Commissioner, who is doing a lot of work in Wales, and I commend you to look at his website when you have a chance, because he'll give you some ideas. We are also fortunate in Wales that we pioneered the shared apprenticeship model, which obviously in terms of current economic positions, we find difficulty in people being able to take apprentices on in terms of cost, time, and the appropriateness of the job. And what we looked at in a construction setting is shared apprenticeships around a number of employers where different experiences were met during the 2-year timescale. So they could do on-the-job scenarios. And one of the big things that's coming out from industry and from Welsh Government, this is not just about skills, it's about competency. And I can't stress that enough. Competency will be fundamental in terms of getting this right. Because if net zero, and we all hear the negative comments about net zero, if those are out there at the moment, what worse disservice can we do to that agenda by putting non-competent people to do the jobs? So it is critical that colleges upskill their lecturers, their trainers to meet the skills requirement, understand the new technologies, and link those through in terms of that approach. Because the bottom line, where this really comes from, is back to consumer confidence. A lot of these renewable technologies and a lot of the infrastructure we're going to be putting into homes, industrial units, will be costly. And there will be need to prove a return on investment. And more importantly, making sure individuals understand what they're doing. I mentioned optimised retrofit earlier on. Now, optimised retrofit programme retrofitted a number of houses in South Wales. And one of the biggest criticisms we had was from the consumer was they didn't understand the technology. And we didn't train them how to use it properly. And instead of putting the maximum benefits in there, the technology that came in was only half used because Mrs. Jones didn't understand how to use it, and we didn't tell them. We just left them a book. And we didn't talk about how it integrates with everything else. So in terms of customer confidence, and as this new technology comes in, and we've seen the negative press which will come back on again on certain renewable technologies not doing the job, we as an industry and as ECA have a part to play to convince consumers to do that effectively. The roadshow themes, I think, are really important at this time. And I think the way this phrases net zero isn't going down initiatives. It is about a final outcome. And I think if we work closely with ECA, as we have in the past, and through your membership, we can drive the net zero policies to be effective in implementation, where previously they were just bits of legislation. And I think it is key from the roadshow point of view, and this is my view and why I'm happy and very pleased to have had the opportunity to speak at the roadshow, is that these need to be actions. They are not legislative bits. They are actions for you as people attending this conference to utilise that effectively. And there's a number of ways you can do that. I've talked about different groups and different ways you can get engaged, but you need to get engaged because otherwise it will be a legislation that you'll be done to as an industry as opposed to doing for the industry. So it is key within that scenario. In terms of support, there is quite a bit of support out there in terms of what businesses can do. The biggest problem with any support is complicated. You've got 6 different websites offering you money and you think, well, is that the right one? Is it the wrong one? What I would suggest you do is there are local business advice centres within all the regions in the UK, or the college will have access to a number of those networks that you can pick the money from. And actually, a lot of the organisations will actually fill the applications forms in for you. There is quite a preference towards funding at the moment in terms of green skills. In Wales, the Net Zero PLA has had an additional 3 million put in over and above personal learning accounts in a generalist sense. So there is a commitment strongly to help business to meet the net zero agenda. And if you do get a difficulty in how you link into that funding, talk to your local college, talk to your local business advice centre, or talk to the Skills Development Council, and they will be able to link that in. It is difficult trying to access they're trying to make it better, but on the web it is a little bit difficult in trying to find out who does what and where things are. And I mentioned at the very beginning, and I cannot say this strong enough, if you're talking about industry being competent, this is about collaboration. None of us are at a competency level, in my opinion, that we will reach the net zero targets that have been set. This could only be done by active collaboration, not just collaboration, active collaboration, where you get involved with the teacher in training. You use your voice to say if the training isn't doing what you need as an industry. Because at the moment, we're all on a voice discovery towards that. I've always said the colleges in their own guise will deliver people that are skills proficient. Only the industry and collaboration will make them industry competent. And my plea to you is, I know you have enough work going on at the moment and enough challenges within the sector, but this is a big opportunity for you to shape the skills agenda future going forward. So, net zero in the real world. It's interesting where it's going to. There are a number of plans, a number of policies. At the moment, we're at the stage where it is just refurbishment at a low carbon level. The measurements, the universities and other people, the work they're doing is still very much in its infancy. There's a lot of strategic thinking on this. Operational thinking is still coming forward in terms of that skills and proficiency. So, in terms of my role, and I believe the ECA's role, is to keep you up to date in terms of strategies coming forward for net zero and where they're coming from. The big one is look at sustainability more than net zero, because if you look at the way governments at the moment are changing their views on that, there is a way that we need to give you the information that's appropriate for you to make the right decisions. There is no doubt this will be a big agenda over the next 10 years. I'm not going to stand in front of you today and say, this is the way it's going to be, because I don't know. But what I do know is there is enough push from government, enough push from the industry, enough push from the public to put this in a reality situation of where your business needs to go. And that is important and critical for where you need to look at. So, in summary, the big thing is that the industry is changing. There are partners out there who will make it happen for you. But we need to work together to do this. Net zero will not happen without the collaboration, without the cooperation of the industry, your expertise, and more appropriately, the right renewable technology being put into a property or industrial unit at the highest possible level. You can see already that some of the renewable technology is already becoming out of date and is being changed. And the need to keep you effectively trained and competent in that is going to be key for ECA and the colleges going forward. I wish you well on this journey, and I look forward to supporting you in Wales and beyond. And I know Andrew from the ECA and the ECA officials will be on hand to deliver this net zero agenda for you. Thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr.